So you might be wondering, I'd love to get a broken tier 6 tank that can basically dominate in tier 8 games. Well, Wargaming have given you one, and that is at season rank 25, and this is actually the reward that you can pick up from the season pass. Obviously, if you bought the ultimate season pass, you will have already got this one guaranteed, and of course, if you're working your way through the season challenges, you probably already have this tank as well if you purchase the battle pass. Now, you do have to purchase the battle pass for 2,000 gold, and if you do that, you will have already got this tank alongside a load of other rewards. And as I always say, purchasing the battle pass is the best thing that you can possibly do, as every season it earns you more gold than you spend on the battle pass itself. So get yourself the battle pass if you are playing the game any length of time, and you will make your money back on terms of the gold. Obviously, you have to put in the original 2,000 gold, which I think if you're going to play the game, spending what, like £6 to £7 on the game for one time for the rest of the game that you'll be playing is not bad at all. And of course, you're making your gold, and you can buy basically everything else. So either way, with that out of the way, the M4A1 FL10 is in today's video, and we have an absolutely outrageous game, one of the best games I've ever had. But I want to show you why we were able to have that, because this is in essence a combination of both a French and an American vehicle, hence the M4A1 and the FL10. And that is because you get the kind of M4A1 FL10 turret, which is like an AMX 1375 turret on top of an M4 Sherman, or an M4A1 Sherman to be precise. And so you end up having this kind of hybrid playstyle whereby you have this auto-loading main armament that is very, very powerful, that we'll get into in game and shortly. But in terms of if you want to play this tank yourself, so you can kind of try and replicate what we were able to do, then the setup we're going to go through now alongside some of the statistics, so you know exactly how to kind of play this tank, what its strengths, what its weaknesses are. So straight off the bat, you have, or we have put in advanced optics. That's to increase the view range of the tank so that it is just more competitive. We've got advanced concealment so that we can stay undetected, and essentially view range in the lower tiers. This is like your bread and butter. This is how you can get free damage, and this is how you can essentially get remain undetected and pump people from long ranges without them ever being able to spot you. So that's kind of the way in which I basically run most low tier vehicles, because it's just a battle of view range. Who has the most wins, as opposed to in the higher tiers where everyone has the maximum view range. This one certainly has very, very good view range, 471 meters. So if we were to look at other vehicles of the same tier, you have things like the Britannia Panther, which will have about 460. But essentially, you want to make sure that you've maxed out, because some of the other vehicles are not going to have near that view range, and they certainly won't have the camo, which is why you want to make sure that you do have advanced concealment to remain hidden. Then we've got improved ventilation. That's because you can't run like a rapid loading or advanced loader on this, because it's an autoloader. You can have rapid loading, that's the skill, but you can't have the advanced loader, as it is an autoloader. You can't run the minus 10% to DPM, but what you can do is boost up your view range, your reload, your kind of camo. You can boost up your track repair speed, and that all comes in the form of improved ventilation. Now, there are some cases that you may want to take out improved ventilation. Maybe you'd want to make the tank faster. Although 48 kilometers an hour with a power to weight ratio of 17.5 is more than enough for most people, and I don't think that you're necessarily going to need the speed. So that's why I think ventilation is basically your only real option when it comes to this tank. That's kind of how I'm thinking anyway. You don't really ever use any of the other ones anyway, so you definitely don't need shell aiming speed. It is not a problem, and this is kind of like one of those things that people fall into the trap of thinking, oh, well, I'll aim faster. Well, it doesn't really matter. You want to reduce the actual aiming circle, or reduce the actual bloom of that aiming circle, so that, you know, it's always more accurate, as opposed to reducing the length of time that it takes to actually aim in. But what else have we taken? We've got full premium consumables, because, you know, seal clubbing at tier 6 is basically just min-maxing the tank. And then enhanced repair kit, we've got enhanced med kit and enhanced rations, and then full premium ammunition. Now the tank's standard ammunition 148 is fine, but in tier 8 games you are going to need as much penetration as possible. And for speed of review and just to basically go through and get the gameplay, we just use full premium ammunition, as it is just better in literally every way. More damage, oh not more damage, but more penetration, more speed on the rounds. It is just a better round. And if you've got the money and you're not really caring about, you know, spending money on playing a low tier tank, then yeah, definitely use the premium ammunition for the most part. Obviously you don't need full premium, it is not necessary. Maybe take, you know, 20-30 rounds of standard, just so that if you are playing in a tier 6 game you can fire standard, and then if you're playing in a tier 7 or a tier 8 game, I would just run full premium, because it is a pain as soon as you come up against higher tier opponents. Either way, in terms of commander skills, I'm not going to go through them all. There is no point in doing it. We have gone through commander skills on basically every type of tank, and they stay basically the same when you play a medium or a light tank. So these are the perks that we've got. Obviously you can stop and pause the screen so you know which ones we've taken if you want to see it more in depth. But we'll move on now to the gameplay portion, because yeah, or maybe we should have a look at the actual gun stats so that you know exactly what we're talking about. But 0.32 accuracy, very good. 1665 DPM is okay for tier 6, nothing absolutely crazy. But it's about the fact that you have a 4-shot autoloader that has, of course, 135 damage per shell, so you got 540 damage you can deal in one clip. And because the penetration when you're coming up against other tier 6s is so good, you are just basically going to be able to go straight through them, and 540 hit points is basically nearly the entirety of or half of the full health of any tier 6 tank. And of course if you're coming up against tier 5s, they will lose considerably more, 75 to 85% of their hit points. 6 degrees of gun depression, absolutely fine, and so this tank works really well. 2-second aim time, which is fine, with the intraclip reload being 1.75. Sometimes you might need to wait a little bit in between firing, but it's not really a problem. And then yeah, that is basically it. 17.5 power to weight ratio means that you are fast on all terrains basically, and yeah, it works really nicely. Either way, let's jump in to the actual gameplay so you can see exactly what we're on about. And the first gameplay that we do have is Rezeni, a map that is pretty decent, and maybe this will be the only one, because I think this basically shows everything that you need to know, both in terms of armor, both in terms at the lower tier. So this is a lower tier game, so we are the bottom tier in a tier 8 game. So yeah, this is going to be tough in order to win, but hopefully we'll be able to pull it out of the bag, as yeah, it could be quite bad if we don't manage to do it, but hopefully it will be an interesting one for you guys to watch. And I'll be interested to see your thoughts on this tank. Now there aren't too many tier 8s and there aren't too many tier 7s, so it's kind of that nice little matchup between having a decent amount of tanks in the same tier as you, and also having, you know, a few tier 7 and tier 8 tanks. But with 4 shells in the magazine and 540 total alpha damage that we can deal, it's quite nice, because even tier 8 heavies, if they hit you, you can still outtrade them if you hit every single one of your shells, which obviously is not necessarily every single time, but you know, you can make the best use of it, and you can obviously trade when you see them fire, going around the corner, dealing damage, and hopefully we'll see an example of that later on. But as you see right now, we're coming into a typical spot at the beginning of the game. We're trying to get a bit of view range, maybe we can spot someone, and of course the key point in going here is to try and find people that are pushing up to the northeastern side of the map when they cross in the wrong location. Now this does happen occasionally, and usually you have to kind of rely on your light tanks to spot them, but here you go. And the light tanks have spotted them, and here is a VK3601H who is getting pounded now in this side of his tank, and we only pen 3 but 400 damage done, so not bad at all. And now a T21 gets spotted, so what we're doing here, waiting for the reload. You got a reload of about 12 seconds, somewhere in that region, just slightly higher, 14. And of course now you're seeing us just basically rinse the T21 for all of his hit points, and then one more into the VK. You can see dispersion when moving the turret isn't awful, It's not amazing, but it certainly is usable, it's workable, you can make sure that you do actually hit people. And so here you go, we have managed to pick up nearly 1,000 damage straight away. But the game definitely does not go our way in this one in terms of having a team, having, you know, tanks that can fight the tier 8s in front of us. We're really going to have to try and do it ourselves if we want to actually have a decent game. And here you go, a Freedom comes out, and here's where the pen is actually fine in a tier kind of 8 matchup. You can see here the Freedom's trying to escape here. We unfortunately hit the upper plate, which obviously is never going to pen, but what we did go for is the inner drive wheel to try and track him and also, you know, deal damage at the same time. We've got artillery looking at us, which is just basically artillery in every tier, just going for lower tier vehicles, usually going for the people that are furthest up, but either way, so far, not a bad game. 1,300 damage, certainly could be better. And what we're really hoping for here is just to catch some people out in the open, maybe going for a few shots against people like that Cheeto. And we find the back of the turret of the Cheeto, getting 2 in there, lucky to hit both of them, lucky to hit 3 of them, lucky to hit all 4. So nice to see us get another 500 damage basically from that little engagement. But the game is really not looking good. It's 11 versus 9. We have a lot of tanks on the enemy team who are pushing the southwestern side of the map. And we don't have a huge amount of tanks over there, and certainly not within range to kind of deal with or kind of counter anyone that comes down there. But we find ourselves another tank out in the open, and uh-oh, Mr. VZ. He is finding it a little bit bad. But either way, we pick up another 500. This is why this tank is just so amazing, is because you can catch people out. They really do underestimate how much damage this thing deals, and it just absolutely farms people. And there you go, the Freedom from earlier is out of the game alongside AOI, who's come around, and we definitely don't want to get hit by him. We're an M4 after all. But don't worry, because we hit him on the move. Yay! For our 3,000 damage so far. 3 enemies taken out, and of course all we've had to do is just basically make sure that we're looking in the right directions. And here is a Boogie who's kind of pushed down, and maybe he'll make another poke in a second, but we'll have to wait and see. He's going down for the artillery piece, which he doesn't realise that we're here. Can we get a tracking shot, please? We do get a tracking shot, but we can't get the 4th one out, so we're going to go for a reload. You need to go for reloads when you can, but now the game is looking really dire. There are 4 enemy tanks against 5 of our tanks. But obviously we're all split up in kind of long range engagements against a Lurva, which is obviously not ideal. And then of course the soldier on M67 goes in against the Lurva. Hopefully he can take him out. But if he doesn't, we're going to be in a bit of a pickle, going for a lucky one on this Boogie here. Maybe we can get one. Is he going to come all the way out? Is he going to go up on the slope? Will he do it? He does appear like he is. We hit him once. We do leave him a 1 clip though, and maybe even a 3 clip if we high roll some of our shells. So yeah, I think he actually might be 1 hit point above our average rolls if we were to not high roll any of our shells. But we've done 3,500 damage, and I need to support my team now. We need to go in, otherwise they're all going to get taken out. And certainly we need to get rid of some of these medium tanks who are kind of in the areas that are pushing up. But this Boogie obviously looks like he's going to come over here. Not entirely sure. We're just waiting a second. And then maybe he'll get spotted later on. We've got a medium tank that's actually behind us, which is not good because that is a tier 8. And I don't believe we've seen him in a long time. So he might be on a lot of hit points. So yeah, fingers crossed he isn't. But we need to push this Boogie. If we don't push the Boogie, we're going to end up, you know, delaying too long. The enemy team are going to get in the cap or something. Oh gosh, we missed our shell. But don't worry, because RNG has our side and we managed to hit him. Now we have an FV304 Burt who will hit twice and he misses. So honestly, hold that one, Mr. Bart, thinking you're funny. But either way, the Burt, you don't want to stay in front of that. That has about a 3-second reload or something stupid since they upped the DPM of all tank destroyers. But we managed to catch the Cheeto twice and again with the 3rd one, picking up 4.2 thousand damage in this matchup so far. 5th enemy taken out so far as well. So we're up to a Top Gun, and potentially, if we can take out both the artillery and the medium tank that's in our base, we might be able to get a Chadley Walters, or a Radley Walters as it's actually called. But either way, we've had a phenomenal game so far, but I definitely don't want to lose to someone who's jumped in the cap. We all know about the cappers. You don't want to go in the cap. It is literally the most boring thing I think I've ever seen in World of Tanks, and often 90% of the time you could have been way better off not going in the cap and actually helping your team than jumping in there and thinking that you're going to win, especially in like a 5 versus 2 situation where you really need to help out your teammate who might be the only other tank left alive on your team. But obviously a lot of people do just jump in the cap. They think they're going to win, but soon enough people start YOLOing them in the cap circle, and then they get reset, and then they don't even get the objective that they were trying to do, and they would have been better off not capping. But you know, people will cap forever, and it is just unfortunate that most people don't realise that often you'll get more XP, more experience in terms of like the actual game, not necessarily, well, you'll get more experience from actually XP wise, but you'll also get experience of fighting, that sort of stuff, which you can use to get more XP in the long run because you're more competent at the game. Now the Earthshaker is here, but there is a Tiger who seems to be pushing up, and we don't want to let him go alone. That tank is horrendous to be fighting, but luckily he's on a low amount of hit points, and with the reload that we have, we should be able to finish him off there with 3 rounds. So there you go, 4,621 damage with 7 enemies taken out, a devastating medal of victory, and no surprise that we come top of the team, dealing 4.6k damage in a tier 8 game, picking up 2,500 base experience, making this one of the highest base experience games that I've ever had. So yeah, it's up there with one of the best. And hopefully that gives you an indication of what this tank is all about. It has no armor, but when you can get the gun working and when you find yourself in a relatively decent spot, you can farm so much damage, and this really is a bit of a seal clubber, and not just a seal clubber, a clubber of seal clubbers. So yeah, it was nice to take it out and ruin some of the seal clubbers days every now and again. But other than that, that is the M4A1. I highly recommend you at least try it out, give it a go, learn a bit with autoloaders at the lower tiers, as it will be way easier than trying out tier 10s or tier 9s, tier 8s. And yeah, it is really nice. So make sure to get your view range up, as low tiers are battle of view range, like I said. But other than that, if you enjoyed, like the video and join me back in one of these videos on screen now if you're interested. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one. Goodbye.